My grandpa died last week. He was never physically present in my life, but he was always there from a distance. He never attended my high school games, nor was he there for my college graduation, but he always called. He'd remind me how much he missed me and share stories of his adventures. He was an active man, retired, but thriving off the land at the edge of the world. He even built his own house in that distant little town, far from me and everyone else. When he finished, he was so proud. He sent me the blueprints and let me design my own room for when I could visit. He loved me. He never struggled to survive. That's why I couldn't accept his sudden death. They said he did it to himself. I didn't accept it. I still don't. He wanted me to see his home. He wanted me there. He wanted to live. And I had to know why someone wanted him dead. He left me the house in his will, so that's where I went. It was even more beautiful in person than in the pictures he sent. The house stood on a hill where the land crumbled into jagged cliffs, the sea beyond stretching into an endless gray. Built by my grandpa's hands, it was meant to be his legacy. The air carried the scent of salt and something else. Fresh dirt, damp grass. The wooden frame, though solid, seemed to exhale with the wind, as if it had held its breath too long. Tall, narrow windows let in just enough light to feel unsettling. Warped glass distorted the world outside, making it look slightly off. And those thin panes let in the delicate sound of waves crashing far below. Inside, the floors creaked in places no one stepped. The wallpaper, once intricate, peeled in curling strips. My grandpa's study was locked, yet some nights, in the house's stillness, I swore I heard pages rustling. Slowly, deliberately. I had been there only a few days, and already, something felt deeply wrong. The townspeople never spoke of the house. Their glances lingered too long when they saw me. Their smiles felt forced, like they knew something I didn't. When I mentioned where my grandpa lived, conversations shifted, subtle but undeniable. At night, the wind pressed against the walls, whispering through the cracks. I told myself it was nothing, just the house settling, just the wind. But in the dark, I felt something else. Watching. Waiting. I knew the first place to search, his study. He spent all his time there. But the door was locked, and after scouring the entire house, I came up empty-handed. The fruitless search was maddening. Late that night, I poured myself a glass of whiskey, debating whether to take a boot or an axe to the door. Rain poured outside. Thunder rattled those thin windows. The sea was silent under the storm's fury. Then, I saw it. The attic hatch. The attic was mostly barren, just covered furniture and old memorabilia. But what caught my eye was a framed photograph. Me and my grandpa. It was faded, resting atop a pile of boxes facing the hatch. The only photo of him in the house, and I was in it too. He wanted me to find it. Tears welled as I reached for it. But as I climbed down, I dropped it. Glass shattered. I cursed, jumping down to check the picture. Intact, but something else was inside the frame. A key and a note. A message scrawled on the back of our photo. Secrets kept safe until the truth must be known. My heart pounded. He knew. He knew I would be the one to uncover his death. He trusted me to catch his killer. This was the first clue. I rushed to the study. The room was packed with books. Dust swirled in the pale flashes of lightning. Journals lined the shelves. Strange symbols and abstract designs were pinned to the walls. And in the center, his desk. Atop it, a thick diary. The diary chronicled his life, his days, his thoughts, and his meetings. Meetings with friends. I never knew he had friends, but every mention of them was paired with those symbols from the walls. Intricate, unnatural snowflakes drawn in perfect symmetry. The last few pages were the most concerning. A secret meeting at the edge of the world. An awakening. A revival. Someone. Something called Thulkor, the day he died. His friends had something to do with it. The people he was investigating out here in this lonely town, they killed him. That night, I fell asleep haunted by more questions than ever. But that photograph lingered in my thoughts. I didn't remember it. I looked about 5 years old. He was crouching beside me, ruffling my hair, wearing a blue-collared shirt, khakis, and his silver watch. He never left home without it. My mother's words echoed in my mind. "Your grandpa can't stay, sweetie. He has important work to do. You can only visit him when you're older. You'll understand." I never did. I still don't. I slept uneasy. That feeling of being watched wouldn't leave me. I left all the lights on, blinds drawn, and from the tree line beyond the house, I could have sworn I saw movement. The next day, I walked through town, trying to clear my mind, but I noticed something. Someone. A man following me. Hood up, head low, mumbling to himself. I turned a corner. He followed. Another turn. Still there. My gut twisted. I ducked into an alley and ran. I barely took 4 steps before he slammed me against the wall. The impact knocked the wind out of me. A hand clamped over my mouth, fingers digging into my throat. "You shouldn't have looked," he whispered. His eyes darted nervously. "But now you have to know. Find the place where the dead speak." Then he was gone. I gasped for air, rubbing my throat. Was he a friend? A warning? A trap? I had to find out, and I knew exactly where to go. The cemetery. Symbols marked the trees, the ground, the graves, matching the ones from my grandpa's study. Then, in the setting sun's glow, I saw it. Blood. A fresh corpse, twisted into a grotesque snowflake. My grandpa. I collapsed over his body, sobbing. The loss paralyzed me. His cold, broken hands in mine. My tears dried, and the truth sank in. He wasn't just murdered. The whole town killed him. I was in over my head. I had to leave. But as I ran, I saw the hill to his house covered in symbols, carved into the earth while I was gone. A voice called from the tree line. "You're too late. It's already done. Don't go." He vanished. But I turned back toward the house. I grabbed my grandpa's diary. And then, a small jewelry case caught my eye. Inside, his silver watch. The first time I ever held it. But when I turned it over, a symbol. The same intricate snowflake. He had worn it all my life. A knock at the door. I peeked outside. Flickering orange light. A fire. And people. Dozens of them. Then I realized I hadn't locked the door. And before I could move, darkness. The last thing I heard was a voice whispering in my ear. "The debt has been paid.